All right, y'all, welcome in. Timeshare Clarence. Quick story and a message at the end. So this is not original story. I've heard it several different times, but I was thinking about it this morning and gave it a little bit more thought, and I feel like a little bit more depth. So I'll share the story, then I'll share kind of the secondary level that I took it to, and ultimately the lesson. So to get through this quickly, let me get started. So the initial story is basically that it's a girl, going through life and not really feeling too great about the situation. You go to her dad for advice. So the dad takes his daughter into the kitchen, puts 3 pots of water on the stove to boil, places an egg in one, a potato in one, and some coffee beans in the other one. Lets these 3 things boil. After a while, takes them off of the stove, takes the egg out of the water, the potato out of the water, and then pours some coffee in a cup. So he asks his daughter what she sees. She says, basically, she sees an egg, a potato, and some coffee. So he tells her to look closer. So she actually picks the egg up, cracks the shell, says, that the egg is hard now, right? Potato, she picks up the potato, kind of presses her fingers into it, realizes the potato is softer now, takes the cup of coffee, smells it, takes a sip, brings a smile to her face, right? So the dad basically told her the point was that all 3 of these things were in the same conditions. So for the egg that was fragile and just had a hard outer shell, it was completely changed. Now it's more rigid, right? It's solid. The potato that was rigid before it went in the water, now it's soft. And then the coffee actually changed the water. So that's the original story. And the lesson in that was basically that, the conditions don't necessarily have to just change you. You can also change the conditions. At least that's how I interpret it, right? So a little bit deeper than that for me. So the egg initially is extremely fragile, right? And it has a hard outer shell to protect itself because it's so fragile. But then after going through life, now the shell is gone. So it's exposed, but because it's exposed, it has to be more resilient. So it's solid, it's more rigid, right? And then the potato that was already rigid has been softened, but you can't really just tell that by looking at the potato. You have to apply a certain amount of pressure to actually see that it's softened. And then the coffee is just obvious, right? It's not water, it's coffee. So the first 2 are significant because if you just stop on the surface of the thing that was soft turn hard and the thing that was hard turn soft, I don't think that really tells the whole story, because while that thing that was soft became more rigid, it'll still never be as hard as that potato was before it got boiled. And even though boiling that potato softened it, it'll never be as fragile as that egg was before it was boiled. And there are a lot of different people that come from different situations and circumstances that's truly the dynamic. Some people have been conditioned to be extremely tough, extremely rigid. Some people were raised in a way that they're extremely vulnerable. They're extremely fragile. And when those 2 things are at odds, it can create a lot of tension because you can never get all the way to the other side. If you were born a certain way, yeah, you can make progress and you can become softer, but you're never going to be as fragile as an egg, and vice versa. So the last thing is the coffee, and the biggest takeaway for me. So yeah, the beans turn the water into coffee, but the beans didn't just turn the water into coffee, right? The water changed the beans. So the water influenced the beans first, and then in return, the beans influenced the water, and the resulting change was a combination of the two. The water didn't just act on the beings, it interacted with the beings to create something completely new. And that, in my opinion, is what happens when there's true growth in your life. You don't just let the world act on you. You don't just let people act on you. You don't just let situations and circumstances act on you and change you. You interact with people, you interact with the world, you interact with your own feelings and emotion to change the situation and yourself as a person. So that's my lesson for y'all this morning. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Hope y'all getting some value out of this. If you are, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. So until next time, peace.